They say a man's strength is measured in silence and how much he can carry without breaking. If that's true, then I must be made of iron. Because for 7 long years, I raised my daughter alone. I was mother, father, protector, and punching bag all rolled into one. And the woman who left us? She vanished without warning, without a second glance. No letters, no birthday calls, just silence. Until now. Now she wants back in. Now that our daughter is almost grown. Now that life has been carved without her. But this isn't a redemption story. This is the story of how I learned that some doors, once shut, should stay shut, no matter who comes knocking. Her name was Maya. We met in college, 2 idealists, chasing dreams and barely surviving off instant noodles and late-night tutoring jobs. She was funny, magnetic, and the kind of person you swore you'd never let go of. And for a while, I didn't. We got married after graduation. Not in a fancy venue, just a backyard, fairy lights, her favorite song playing from a Bluetooth speaker. But it was perfect. A couple of years later, our daughter, Eliza, was born. She was everything. My whole world condensed into 6 pounds of curiosity and laughter. We were exhausted and overwhelmed, sure. But we were a family. Or so I thought. One Monday morning, I got up to make pancakes, Eliza's favorite. But Maya never came down. I checked every room, every closet. Nothing. No shoes by the door. No car in the driveway. Just a single piece of paper on the counter. I'm sorry. I can't do this. Please don't try to find me. That was it. I stared at the note until the edges curled from my grip. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to. Eliza was barely 5. She kept asking when Mommy would be home. She drew her pictures. Left her cookies on the table. Whispered goodnight to the hallway for weeks. And me? I became everything. Cook, nurse, teacher, friend, protector. There was no room to grieve. I didn't get to fall apart, because she already had. The first year after Maya left was survival. I had to quit my second job. Bills piled up. I'd cry into the shower water so Eliza wouldn't hear. But every night, I'd read her a story, tuck her in, and promise, Daddy's not going anywhere. She believed me. That belief became my fuel. There were birthday parties where all the moms whispered behind their coffee cups. School plays where she scanned the crowd for a mother who'd never come. Still, I showed up. Every time. I learned how to braid hair. I baked cakes. I stayed up sewing Halloween costumes. I became the kind of parent I never thought I could be. Because I had to. Because she deserved it. 7 years later, Maya resurfaced. It was a Sunday. Eliza was 12. We were watching a movie on the couch when my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. Hi, it's Maya. I want to see her. My fingers went numb. She didn't ask how Eliza was. She didn't apologize. Just demanded a role in a life she'd abandoned. I didn't respond for days. When I finally did, I wrote, "You walked away." She's not a bookmark you can flip back to. But Maya was persistent. She sent letters, emails, even showed up at Eliza's school once, pretending to be an aunt. I had to get a lawyer involved. I wasn't being cruel. I was protecting the one person I'd promised never to fail. Eventually, I told Eliza the truth, not to poison her, but to prepare her. She sat in silence for a long time. Then she asked, "Did I do something wrong? Is that why she left?" My heart shattered. I pulled her close and whispered, "She didn't leave because of you. She left because of her." From that day, Eliza stopped asking when her mom would return. She focused on her life, on her dreams. And I watched her bloom, straight-A student, kind, creative, stronger than I ever was at her age. I thought we'd made it. That maybe the worst was behind us. But life isn't always that kind. When Eliza turned 16, Maya returned again. But this time, she came bearing gifts. A shiny car. Promises of college funds. Expensive vacations with her new husband. He was rich. A tech entrepreneur or something like that. And suddenly, Maya was mom again, charming, generous, pretending the past never happened. At first, Eliza was hesitant. But curiosity has a way of sneaking in. She started spending weekends with them, posting smiling photos, calling me Les. I didn't blame her. She was a teenager trying to piece together a broken puzzle. But each time she came home, it felt like I was losing her a little more. Then came the worst day of my life. She sat across the dinner table and said, "I think I want to move in with Mom and David." I froze. All those years, the scraped knees, the late-night fevers, the birthday candles and bedtime songs collapsed into silence. "I just want to know what it's like," she added. "To have a normal family." I nodded. Because what else could I do? You can't force someone to stay, even when you've given them everything. The house was so quiet after she left. Her room stayed the same for weeks. I'd walk by and catch my breath, half expecting her to pop out with a sarcastic comment or ask for snacks. But she didn't. Instead, she posted pictures from beaches and hotels, from luxury dinners where they toasted her second chance. I watched from the sidelines as my daughter was slowly rewritten in someone else's story. I didn't fight it. I couldn't. All I could do was keep my promise, to always be here, no matter what. Months passed. She visited sometimes, but it felt like visiting a distant uncle, not a father. And then came the letter. Maya and David wanted to adopt her legally. They said it would simplify insurance, college paperwork, but I knew what it was: erasure. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. Instead, I wrote a letter of my own. Not to Maya, not to Eliza, to myself. I reminded myself of every scraped knee I kissed, every school recital I clapped for, every time she sobbed in my arms at night. I was her father, and no paper could take that away. Eventually, Eliza came back, not to stay, but to talk. She'd grown. Taller, colder, wearing confidence like armor. She said she still loved me, but things were different now. And then she asked about her inheritance. It took everything in me not to break. But I simply said, Eliza, I gave you all I had when you needed it most. I'm not here to buy love now. She looked wounded, like I'd betrayed her. But in truth, I was just letting her go. Some lessons we only learn in silence. Years went by. We'd text occasionally. A birthday here. A holiday there. But the bond? It never returned. Then, one evening, I got a call. It was Eliza, crying. David had left Maya. Turns out, the perfect family she had abandoned everything for wasn't so perfect after all. She asked if she could come home. And I said yes. But not because I wanted to relive the past. I said yes because that's what fathers do. They open doors, even when their hearts are tired. Eliza stayed with me for 3 weeks. We didn't talk about the past. We just cooked meals, watched old movies, sat in silence that wasn't heavy anymore. Then one night, she asked me something I'll never forget. Were you ever angry with me? I didn't answer right away. Then I said, only at myself, for not being enough to keep you here. She burst into tears. And in that moment, we didn't need forgiveness, just honesty. Sometimes, healing doesn't come in grand apologies. It comes in quiet truth. Now, Eliza lives her own life, independent, strong, wiser than she was before. We talk more. She visits. She even calls me when she's stuck or scared or just needs to hear someone breathe on the other end. I never asked for credit, never demanded recognition, but she knows. And that's enough. Because being a parent isn't about being the favorite, it's about being there when it matters most. And I was, even when she couldn't see it. So when people ask me if I regret raising her alone, I say no. Would I wish for an easier path? Of course. But I got to love her first. I got to be the arms that held her when the world was too much. And even if I wasn't always chosen, I was always present. That's what makes you a father. Not DNA, not last names, but the nights you stayed, even when it hurt to be invisible. There was one night I'll never forget. Eliza was 8. She had the flu, high fever, chills, crying for her mom in her sleep. I sat on the cold bathroom floor with her in my lap, holding a cool rag to her forehead, whispering lullabies from memory. And in that moment, I wasn't angry at Maya. I was just exhausted. I whispered, I wish you could see her now. I wish you could see how strong she is. What you left behind. But I never sent that message. Some things are better left unsaid. The hardest part of parenting alone isn't the money or the time. It's the silence. There's no one to high-five when she nails a school presentation. No one to lean on when she screams that she hates you for grounding her. No one to tell you you're doing okay, that you're not ruining this child with your mistakes. So you bottle it up. You put on a brave face. And you keep going. Because she needs you to. Sometimes people ask me if I ever tried dating again. I did. Once or twice. But no one ever stayed. It wasn't their fault. It's just, when you've been forged in fire, ordinary warmth feels like a spark that fizzles too soon. And maybe I didn't want to risk Eliza getting attached to someone who could walk out again. One disappearing mother was enough. So I stayed single, focused, grounded, and I have no regrets. Maya tried reaching out again after David left. She said she was rebuilding her life and wanted to co-parent now. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I simply said, you had a chance to be her mother when it counted. She tried guilt. You're keeping her from me. And maybe I was. But not out of spite. Out of protection. You don't get to walk out of the fire and then ask for a warm seat at the table. Eliza asked me recently, do you hate her? I looked at her, now a woman, standing taller than the little girl who once fit on my shoulders. And I said, no, I don't hate her. I meant it. Because hate is heavy. It anchors you to the past. I forgave Maya not because she earned it, but because I needed peace. I released the anger. Not for her. For me. So I could be present. So I could breathe. So I could finally stop waiting for someone who never intended to return. These days, I watch Eliza live. She travels. She speaks her mind. She chooses carefully who she trusts. She's guarded, but not broken. And sometimes I wonder if that's her mother's legacy or mine. Maybe both. But when she calls me just to say she's proud of me, when she tells me her friends say I'm the strongest man they've heard stories about, I smile. Because those scars? They made something extraordinary. Not perfect, but real. I wrote this not for pity or praise, but for the other parents doing it alone. For the ones sitting in silence, wondering if they're enough. You are. Even when it doesn't feel like it. Even when they pull away. When they leave. When they forget. You are still the arms they remember when the world gets too loud. You are still the lighthouse. Even if they sail away for a while. Keep shining. They'll find their way back. Sometimes, in the quietest moments, I replay everything. The day she left. The birthdays I hosted alone. The school meetings where I sat between perfect couples. The loneliness. But also the laughter. The way Eliza used to dance barefoot in the living room. Her bad jokes. Her tight hugs after nightmares. You don't get one without the other. That's the deal life gives us. And I took it. Every hard, beautiful, gut-wrenching moment of it. There's a picture I keep in my wallet. It's from when Eliza was 9. She had cake on her face, a missing front tooth, and the proudest grin in the universe. We had just finished decorating her bedroom ourselves. It was hideous, neon purple walls, star stickers, glitter glue on everything. But she called it her kingdom. And in that photo, I see everything I ever needed to know. That love isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, over and over, even when it hurts. Maya texted me one last time. She said she wanted to start fresh, maybe have coffee, talk about how we could be civil. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I blocked the number. Not because I'm cruel, but because some chapters don't need sequels. They need endings. It took me years to understand that love is not proven by grand gestures. It's forged in repetition. The lunches packed at dawn. The late-night homework help. The rides to doctor appointments when I was sick myself. That's the love no one claps for. There's no applause when you cancel your one night out because your daughter has a cold. No medals for choosing library visits over personal time. But that's the kind of love that stays. When Eliza was 10, she asked why I never dated again. I paused, caught off guard, then said, because I already had everything I wanted. She smiled, not out of pride, but with a kind of sadness only children carry when they realize how much their parents sacrificed. Later that night, I found a note in my sock drawer. It said, I don't need anyone else, Daddy. You were always enough. I still keep it in my wallet. Sometimes, I wondered if I should have tried harder to force Maya into responsibility. But how do you make someone love their child? How do you explain to a court that emotional abandonment is just as cruel as walking out the door? I had no proof. Only silence. And silence never wins in family court. So I chose the harder path to raise her alone, without dragging Maya through endless battles. I thought I was doing the right thing. But right doesn't always mean easy. I once ran into Maya at the grocery store, years later, by accident. She looked older, tired, worn by a life she thought would be better without us. She tried to smile. I didn't. She said, "You still mad?" I said, "I'm not anything to you," and walked away. Because closure doesn't always come wrapped in bows or apologies. Sometimes, it's just walking away with your head high and your soul intact. When Eliza got her first job, she called me, excited, proud, like she was 10 years old again, showing me her latest drawing. She said, "I used your resume template, Dad. The one you used when applying for your last job." I laughed. I hadn't even realized she kept it. That's the thing about parenting. Even when you think they're not watching, they are. They remember. And those memories? That's your legacy. I used to believe that pain fades over time. But I was wrong. Pain doesn't disappear. It transforms. It becomes fuel for boundaries. Wisdom for the next chapter. Armor against those who try to return without remorse. I don't live in that pain anymore. But I carry it, like a tattoo under my skin. And that's okay, because it reminds me of everything I survived, and everything I became because of it. There was a summer when Eliza and I drove cross-country in my beat-up sedan. No air conditioning, cheap motels, fast food on the dashboard. But every sunset was ours. Every playlist was a shared memory in the making. We stopped at silly roadside attractions, argued over directions, and laughed until our faces hurt. It wasn't fancy, but it was freedom. And years later, she still says that was the happiest she's ever felt. Not because of where we went, but because of who she was with. Grief has a strange way of echoing. Even when life seems stable, something small, a smell, a voice, an old voicemail can crack open old wounds. One night, I accidentally played an old message from Maya, saved years ago by mistake. Eliza overheard. She didn't say anything, just sat quietly. Later, she whispered, "I used to dream she'd come back. But now I dream she never had to leave to begin with." It wasn't anger, just mourning the mother she never got to keep. When Eliza graduated college, I stood in the back, unnoticed by most. She wore her cap tilted, smiled with the same grin from her childhood, and gave a speech I'll never forget. She said, "My father is the reason I stand here today." People clapped politely, not knowing the storm behind those words. But I did. And in that moment, I cried. Not because I needed recognition, but because everything I poured into her finally bloomed before my eyes. She was whole, and I was proud. Now, as I grow older, I think about legacy. Not money, not property, but the mark we leave on the hearts we've touched. Eliza tells me her future children will know who raised her. Not just in stories, but in the way she loves them, protects them, listens to them. She says, "You taught me how to show up, Dad." And that's enough. Because in a world full of vanishers, I stayed. And sometimes, staying is the bravest thing you can do. There was a time when I feared Eliza would grow up resenting me. For the rules. The long hours I worked. The times I couldn't afford what her friends had. But that fear faded slowly, replaced with gratitude, hers and mine. One night, during one of our rare dinners out, she reached across the table and said, "Thank you for never pretending life was easy." That one sentence erased 1,000 doubts I'd carried for years. We once got snowed in during a holiday, just the two of us, a half-working heater, and a dwindling supply of hot chocolate. We built a pillow fort, told stories, danced to old records under fairy lights we hung from curtain rods. It felt like magic. Not because it was perfect, but because it wasn't. Life had thrown chaos at us again and again, and we answered with joy anyway. That's resilience. That's family. As I look back now, I don't measure my life in milestones like promotions or paychecks. I measure it in moments. The giggles in the middle of the night. The way Eliza used to hold my pinky instead of my hand when she was small. The look in her eyes when she realized I never left. Moments. That's what matters in the end. Not what you built, but who you built it for. And if you did it with love, it was worth everything. One day, Eliza asked if I ever wished Maya had stayed. I thought about it carefully, then said, "I wish she had stayed for you." But if staying meant becoming someone who tore us apart, then no, I don't. Sometimes, loss teaches us who we really are, and who we were meant to be even when it hurts. Eliza didn't grow up with the family she deserved, but she became the kind of woman who'll never let someone feel unwanted. And that's the real legacy. When Eliza moved into her first apartment, I helped carry the last box up 3 flights of stairs. We both sat on the floor, out of breath, surrounded by half-assembled furniture and dreams. She looked at me and said, "I'm scared." I told her, "That's okay. Being scared just means you care." She nodded slowly, then added, "But I know I'll be okay, because I had you." That moment, more than any award, promotion, or praise, was the proof I did something right. People sometimes pity single parents. They imagine lives filled with struggle, loneliness, and lack. And sure, there were those. But there was also unmatched joy. Private jokes no one else understood. Silent victories no one clapped for but still mattered. A bond built not from ease, but from endurance. That's not something to be pitted. It's something to be proud of. Because I didn't just raise a daughter. I raised a legacy. As I close this chapter, I leave one truth behind. You don't have to be everything to be enough. You just have to show up. Hold space. Listen. Apologize when you're wrong. Stay when it's hard. That's what makes a parent. Not DNA. Not shared names. But choice, again and again. To love, protect, and believe in someone even when the world doesn't. And I chose Eliza every day. I always will.